In 1996, Thomas Stanley and William Danko released a book that quietly detonated the way Americans thought about wealth. The Millionaire Next Door was supposed to be just another book on money, but instead it flipped the entire cultural script on what a rich person looked like. Gone were the assumptions of fancy cars, designer suits, gated communities, and $40 steaks for lunch. Their research uncovered something genuinely shocking for its time, something that most people still don't believe today. Millionaires were not who we thought they were. They weren't concentrated in high-income, white-collar neighborhoods. They weren't stockbrokers, surgeons, or CEOs driving German imports. They weren't living the lifestyles portrayed in movies, magazines, or TV. Instead, the real millionaires in America were all around us, quietly living in modest homes, working ordinary jobs, and practicing extraordinary financial discipline. Stanley and Danko found that blue-collar neighborhoods contained more millionaires per capita than many upper-class suburbs. Plumbers, electricians, teachers, small business owners, contractors, mechanics, and everyday families. People who built wealth not by earning millions, but by consistently saving and investing their income over decades. They spent less than they earned, they avoided lifestyle upgrades, they drove reasonable cars, and they invested faithfully year after year. That was the formula. Not luck, not a massive inheritance, not a once-in-a-lifetime stock pick, just discipline, patience, and time. And today, almost 30 years after The Millionaire Next Door, the principles haven't really changed. If anything, they've only become more important in a culture obsessed with appearances and pressured by lifestyle inflation. So today, we want to walk you through something simple but powerful: how you can become a millionaire on almost any income, and how long it actually takes at different savings levels. Spoiler, it's a lot more achievable than you think. Welcome to Plan to Prosper, where we exist to honor God by helping faithful servants steward their finances wisely and build wealth that endures for generations. All right, Logan, we're talking about millionaires today.
First, I need to apologize to everybody for the Delco accent that just came out of you during that.
When?
Modest Heyums.
I did not say Heyums.
Oh, it was Heyums.
That is not true. I am from Delco, but I try to rein it in as best I can on the podcast.
You let it slip there.
Dang, man. All right. I got to do better, I guess. Although, you know what? No, forget it. I'm not going to apologize for it. That's where I'm from. It's my culture. Those are my people. Much to the chagrin of my wife, who hates that accent. It comes out every once in a while.
Fair enough.
All right. So we're talking about how to become a millionaire at different income levels. And we'll hit 4 different income levels today. We'll get to that in a second. But I think people still to this day have this assumption about what a millionaire looks like. And, you know, you think about like the old cartoons or movies, and a millionaire is just like a guy in a tuxedo and a top hat walking into a fancy restaurant with like that black cane kind of a thing, like pulling up in a limousine. That's not really the reality in real life. Millionaires are forged every day in normal, ordinary jobs, and we want to talk about that.
Yeah, it is interesting. Even with inflation and everything, $1 million isn't what it was 20 and 30 years ago, even 10 years ago. But I still think there's this psychological thing that people get when they actually realize that they've reached $1 million that is just encouraging to people, and just a cool, like, oh, wow, I'm a millionaire.
Exactly. Yeah. And obviously everybody's situation is different. So this magical number of $1 million is not what everybody actually needs to retire on. Like, it's not like that's everybody's goal. And once you hit $1 million, you're good to go in retirement. That's not true. It depends on so many different things in your life. So if you want to know what your number is in terms of a target to shoot for retirement wise, it might be less than that. It might be more than that. But it's going to be different for everybody. But we're strictly talking today about how to reach a $1 million portfolio and what it would take to get there and how long it would take to get there.
Yeah. And actually, similarly, I think that 20 to 30 years ago, $1 million was typically somebody could retire on that. I haven't looked, but I think it's probably the majority of people need more than $1 million these days to actually retire and live the comfortable life they want to live.
Probably. Yeah, let's use that classic 4% withdrawal rule that, you know, we don't necessarily abide by that in terms of that's what we're hyper-focused on when putting retirement plans together. But I think it's a good, just to give you a sense of what you might need in retirement, when you reach a portfolio when you get to retirement, withdrawing 4% of that annually is a safe withdrawal rate if we're assuming growth greater than that on average in your investment returns, that you could be withdrawing 4% annually from your portfolio and not risk drawing it all the way down by the time you reach the end of your life.
Right.
So $1 million, 4% of that is $40,000 a year. And if you think about your own life, $40,000, that might not be enough for you to live off of. So depending on what your current lifestyle looks like.
Yeah, you've also got me thinking 20, 30 years ago, I think they were definitely decreasing, but pensions were still more common back then.
Right.
So pensions don't really show up on your net worth, but they're going to show up as an income stream.
Yeah.
So that probably also made it easier to retire at $1 million.
Yeah. And obviously there's other things like Social Security too. We tried not to rely too heavily on that, especially if you're younger and in the early stages of your wealth building journey. I think it's the wisest thing would really be to not count on that at all. And anything that comes from your Social Security later in life is just bonus. Try to build a portfolio big enough to support yourself entirely in retirement. But yeah, there's other things too beyond just your portfolio.
Yeah. Yep.
So yeah, I think the big idea that we're going to discover today that we hinted at in the cold opening is that being a millionaire is not about having a high income necessarily. That helps, obviously, but you can reach $1 million portfolio really at almost any income level with disciplined savings over time.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's going to depend on, we've gone through some in previous episodes, some budget tips. And so, yeah, it's really going to depend on how well you can budget and make sure you're disciplined in your savings.
Yeah. So I referenced this book in the cold opening called Millionaire Next Door. Have you ever read that?
I have not.
Okay. You're not a very good financial advisor then. No, I'm just kidding.
Apparently.
It's not like the end all be all. I listened to it as an audiobook maybe two years ago. And it's very interesting for sure. But I think some of the wisdom is a little outdated at this point. It's a 20, 30-year-old book at this point. Nevertheless, they did this lengthy research project ahead of it, is my understanding, these two authors, and ended up, they went into it with a different goal. They were just trying to figure out what millionaires looked like in America, and they expected to find the fancy cars and all these things, and they ended up finding there's a ton of millionaires that are just the most normal people that they live right next door to you, hence the name of the book. And so that's kind of what we want to piggyback off of, is this concept that they discovered and really demonstrate with real numbers what it would look like at 4 different income levels and with different savings rates at each of those, how long it would take for you to reach $1 million portfolio. I was on LinkedIn this morning and I saw this post that cracked me up. It said, "I'm looking to hire people interested in making $1 million a year. No, this is not a multi-level marketing scheme. We'll be committing fraud." That's not what we're going to be doing today.
Right.
We'll do it legitimately. So let's get into it. First, let's talk about the assumptions that we'll be using in our calculations today. So we're going to be starting with a $0 portfolio. So you're starting from scratch here. And we're going to be saving a percentage of your gross income. We're going to look at different savings rates. We're going to look at 25%, what was it again? 15% and 5%. So 3 different savings rates. Let's just say you're making $100,000 a year. 25% is $25,000 a year. Did I do that right? Yeah. So we'll be looking at those 3 savings rates, and then we'll do 4 different income tiers. So $200,000, $150,000, $100,000, and $50,000. Obviously, your income is probably not exactly any of those, but you can just kind of consider it within a range of tiers. We're going to be investing all of those savings with an 8% on average annual return, which is it's a good return, obviously.
It depends on your portfolio.
Yeah.
It depends on what type of portfolio you're in.
Yeah, so we're being very general here, but we're going to assume a little bit more of a growth-oriented portfolio that is maybe more weighted in equities that leads to, on average, an 8% return.
Which isn't nuts. According to Investopedia, since 1957, the S&P's done 10.5% per year, so on average. So 8% isn't. If you hear 8%, it's not like, well, how am I ever going to get that? There are ways to potentially get that.
Yeah. Obviously, there's no guarantees in
Right.
what we do. It's investments. They go up and they go down.
Yeah.
But on average, we're gonna assume an 8% annual return. And then these contributions, just for simplicity's sake, are being made annually, not like dollar cost averaged over monthly contributions. It's just going to be an annual contribution.
Which actually makes it a little bit more conservative.
Yeah, exactly. Good. All right. So here are the 4 tiers of income. We're going to start at the highest and then work our way down. Because I think it'll be somewhat surprising when we compare some of these figures that it's not just about having a high income, though obviously that's going to be the quickest way to do it. And so we'll start with this.
Did you mention starting at a zero net worth?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
I feel like that's important. A lot of people have student loans and stuff, and so if you're at minus 200,000 or whatever, it's going to be a little bit different for you.
Yeah, true. But we are talking about strictly. I'm thinking about this. You have $0 in a portfolio, but you start putting money in that today. So I'm not necessarily counting. Like, we're not talking. Yeah. Zero net
that
worth.
your portfolio gets to $1 million?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, not your net worth, your portfolio. Okay. So
all right.
Even if you have student loan debt, we're going to kind of disregard that, and we're showing
makes sense.
You saving specifically 25% of your portfolio or of your income every year into an investment account.
Yeah.
Is the concept here. So first tier is $200,000 per year of income. So I think this is people make much more than this and can make much more, especially if you're a dual income family. But we're going to treat this as our highest tier for today's purposes. And this is high earning professionals, doctors make in that range, or just a dual income family where each spouse is making $100,000, for instance.
Successful entrepreneurs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Salespeople. Yeah.
Lots of ways that you can make $200,000 a year. You might hear that and go, that sounds crazy. But
lawyers.
Yeah. For our purposes, this is a high earning professional, and this is our top tier for today. So if you're making $200,000 a year and you save 25% of that annually, that's an annual savings of $50,000. So that's really healthy. That's a great savings rate on a great income. This is obviously going to be the fastest way in our projections today to get to $1 million. And that takes how long?
12.4 years.
Yeah. So if you're 30 years old and you're making that income and you have nothing in your portfolio and you start saving 25% a year, your portfolio in these theoretical projections would reach $1 million by the time you're 42 and a half years old.
Which I feel like also demonstrates the value of the compounding, because if you think about it, with zero compounding, you're at $500,000 in 10 years.
Yeah. Yeah, right. Yeah, $50,000 times 10.
Yeah.
So this speaks to the value of investing and investing as early as you can.
Yeah.
Obviously, you can't control that whether you invested yesterday or not, or 10 years ago, but you can control today and moving forward.
Wherever you are in life.
Yeah. So little over 12 years, 12 and a half years to get to $1 million at that savings rate. If they are only saved 15%, that's $30,000 a year, and that takes just about 17 years to do it. So that increases, by
4.5 years.
Yeah, exactly. So it's a big difference, and that's just changing your savings rate, not changing your income at all. That's just your savings rate.
Mm-hmm.
And then then there's an even bigger jump when we drop it another 10%. And if you're only saving 5% of your income, that's about $10,000 per year that you're saving. That's going to take almost 30 years to get to $1 million, 28 and a half years to reach that $1 million portfolio.
And on $200,000 income, like $10,000, now you're down to, in gross, $190. It should be plenty you should absolutely be able to reach that savings level.
Exactly, yeah. So that's still, 30 years is a good, if you're 30, that takes you to 60.
Yeah.
But again, you might need more than that to retire on. So
Right.
You probably want to consider how to increase your savings rate, even at a $200,000 income,
Yeah.
or maybe especially at a $200,000, because obviously you still have more money to play with, and more for your lifestyle, more for generosity and all these things. So you should probably have a higher savings rate than 5%. But it's amazing how different that is. We're knocking off 10% in each of these, and we go from 12 and a half to almost 17 years, and then from 17 years to 28 and a half years. So the difference, goes, that first jump of cutting 10% of your savings rate is like 5 years almost. And then the next one's 12 years. It adds 12 extra years to your,
almost.
So It's a big difference. Your savings rate has a huge impact on how fast you can reach these goals.
Yeah.
Any other thoughts on the high tier, 200,000?
No, I don't. No, I think it all makes sense.
All right. What's the next tier?
The next tier is 150,000. So this would be kind of your engineers, project managers, again, dual income, depending on the type of like teacher. I know that even if you're dual income at my kid's school, you're nowhere near 150. So it would be like public school teachers or something like that. So yeah, just those kind of everyday jobs.
Yeah. And let's also quickly add, this would consider employer matches in this, because that's part of that savings. So if your employer matches 4 or 5% on your 401k or something like that, that's your money.
Right.
Obviously you could have some vesting potential issues, but if you just stay there and we assume that it all eventually gets vested, that's still your money. So you can include that when you're calculating your savings rate. You can include that in your savings projections.
All right. So So if you're matched at 5%, that means you only personally have to do 20.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. Essentially, and you might do 5% in your 401k. Get that 5% match,
right.
And then you max out a Roth IRA and you get another, whatever that ends up being for your income, another 5% or 10% of your income. So you're adding all these things together. You might be doing it across different investment vehicles, but they're all getting invested. This isn't money that's going into your checking account or your savings account. It's getting into an investment portfolio, 401k,
all aggregate portfolio,
a Roth IRA, or some kind of taxable account. So include all of that when you're making these calculations.
And we're not including any kind of tax implications here.
Right. Yeah. Or I think another helpful, like you know me, I love HSAs, but that's money. It is money that you're saving if you're contributing to an HSA, but more likely than not, you're also probably spending out of that too. So that's money that you're not technically saving to this portfolio because you're withdrawing from it somewhat regularly.
Dalton's just a hypochondriac. That's
not true. But I love my HSAs, and you have kids, you use your HSA money, right?
Yeah.
Got to go to the hospital sometimes when your daughter swallows Tylenol PM. It happens.
I haven't had that happen to me yet, but
all right,
we've had other hospital visits.
Yes. All right, so $150,000. So again, we'll start with 25% savings rate, which is about $37,500 per year. And that takes just about 15 years to get to that, 14.8 years. So not all that different from the $200,000. That's 12 and a half years. This adds just
almost
over
2.5.
Yeah, 2.5 years to get to that $1 million. What's 15%?
15%, you're saving $22,500. And that gets you to just under 20 years, so 19.7. So again, you're at about 2.8 more years than that top tier.
Yeah. And then at 5%, you're saving $7,500 a year. So that's it's maxing out a Roth IRA next year, basically. And that takes about 32 years to get to that point. So obviously the lower income, as we continue to drop down our tiers, that 5% number is going to be a tough one to hit $1 million. It's only going to get longer and longer.
Right.
When you're saving less and less.
Yep.
At tier 3, we're looking at $100,000. What are some professions that, on average, that make that?
Yeah, so again, I would say public school teachers, professionals that are in marketing, some of the skilled trades, plumbers, electricians, those kinds of professions.
Yeah, I think to your earlier point when you were talking about like $1 million means less today than it did 30 years ago. I think similarly, like income levels, like $100,000, like making six figures for the longest time was like, this is like, you've made it. And the reality is like, it's still a good income. That's a very good income, but it's not what it used to be. It's more average than like, this is a high income earner.
Not to get on too much of a tangent, so I'll keep this quick, but I would be interested Me and a friend were talking, I don't know, 8 to 10 years ago, and there was some study that came out that showed that the increase there was a very small increase in happiness once you got to like $70,000 was the peak of $70,000 income was the peak of happiness, and then the more you made it, like it didn't continue rising really, it just kind of peaked there. But that was 10 years ago. I wonder if that study was done now, what it would have been.
That's very interesting. 70,000 is the peak happiness. All right.
10 years ago. So
yeah,
for whatever that's worth.
Maybe it's 100,000 now.
Yeah, I don't know.
Because again, it's the psychological thing. There was something about crossing over that threshold of making 5 figures to making 6 figures that just, it probably feels nice.
Yeah.
So, all right. So $100,000 income, if you're saving 25%, that math is the easiest. This tier is going to be the easiest math that we have all day. $100,000 at 25%, $25,000.
Yeah.
How long does it take to reach $1 million?
You're getting close to 20 years. It's just over 18 and a half.
Yep. So it's similar to the first tier, that $200,000 income at a 15% savings rate. That's $30,000. So it's different for sure. But if we're talking about cutting your income in half, if you have a really healthy savings rate compared to a $200,000 earner, you can still get to your $1 million at pretty similarly.
Yeah, yeah.
15% is obviously $15,000. And how long does that take?
You're at an even 24 years.
Yep. And then 5% is only $5,000 a year. That's going to take a significantly longer. It's going to take almost 37. Almost 37 years. 36.8 years to get to that $1 million portfolio. And then finally, we've got our last tier of income. This is $50,000. And, a lot of people early in their careers would be making around this. Modest single income households. That a lot of people make around this. But I think the encouraging thing here is that this is not impossible to reach $1 million.
Right. Yeah, I would say also kind of from our perspective, we are talking from a Philadelphia suburb, kind of northeast mid-Atlantic, where standard of living, cost of living is higher. I talked to plenty of people that live in like rural Midwest where they're making $50,000 work, no problem. Yeah.
Yeah. So for a 25% savings rate, that's $12,500 per year. How long does that take to reach $1 million?
26 years.
Yep. Which is faster than a $200,000 income at 5% savings rate.
Yeah.
You're saving more than the $200,000 income earner who's saving only 5% of his salary. So if you're disciplined at $50,000, and again, this is assuming like no salary increases. We're just we're kind of assuming a flat $50,000 for 26 years here. That's probably not the reality of your life.
Yeah, but we're also assuming a zero inflation, right? So your budget isn't increasing either, really.
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, take all this with a slight grain of salt. We're really just trying to
simplify,
figure out what this $1 million threshold is, how to get there. So if you're saving 25% of your salary at $50,000, that's $12,500 a year, which, when you're at this lower income level, that's going to be harder because you have so much less to work with in your general living expenses. But if you're used to that,
that gets you down to $37,500.
Yeah.
And the rest of your expenses.
Yeah. If you avoid letting your lifestyle creep up too much when you're just starting your career and you're kind of committed to like, let's start at 25% and just keep that going forever. You'll avoid that temptation to, I can save a little bit less now. So if you're at this income level, fear not, you can certainly get to $1 million in a reasonable amount of time. If we drop that to 15% and you're saving $7,500 a year, that's the same number at 5% at $150,000 income. It's $7,500 a year either way. So you're either 15% at $50,000 a year or 5% at $150,000 a year. I know we're throwing a lot of numbers out here and we're literally looking at it. So maybe we could have our marketing team put the numbers on the screen.
Yeah. Or slow us down.
Yeah. I know. I do talk really fast because that's just who I am. All right. So it's the same exact number, 31, almost 32 years, 31.9 years.
The faster talking takes the Delco out of you.
Does it?
I mean, I don't hear any right now.
All right. Well, we'll have to fix that. And then finally, this is going to be the longest period of time is if you're only saving 5% at $50,000, that's $2,500 a year.
And almost 45 and a half years.
Yeah.
Which is a long time, but I feel like it's also encouraging for even the lowest earner who can't save a ton, because if you start at 22, you're getting a 67 with $1 million.
Yeah. And because your income is more modest, you don't need as much in retirement, likely. You could live off of that $40,000 most likely, because you're no longer paying for things that you were in during your working years. Probably you're maybe paying for less. So it's still a feasible thing. If you are only saving 5% at 50,000 and you reach 67 with $1 million portfolio, and then you start drawing 40,000 a year, let's just say, for even numbers, you might be perfectly comfortable living off of that for the rest of your life, because you've only been making 50,000.
Yeah, because even though at the beginning you said don't depend on Social Security, maybe Social Security makes up for that other 10.
Yeah. But yeah, again, you're not saving, so we're already dropping $2,500 off your expenses, so that's down to 47.5.
Yeah.
There's maybe $7,500 that you would need to make up for somewhere.
Yeah.
So I hope that that's an encouraging thing to hear. Mm-hmm. No matter what your income level is, it's really not out of the realm of possibility to reach $1 million, even if you have a fairly modest savings rate. Yeah.
Yes. It was interesting. I took a look at I'm not really sure what this organization is, but Go Banking Rates did a survey.
Okay.
66% of Americans today believe that they will never achieve millionaire status. And I feel like we just kind of showed that you actually can.
100%. Yeah, we do financial plans all the time, and you might look at the raw numbers and see somebody that's not making tons and tons and tons of money. They're not in the high income level tier, and they're able to save a few $100s a month here, and they just go, what does that look like? And if that's true, if they're able to still save a few $100s per month, that's that $2,500 a year.
Yeah.
Like eventually, if you can keep that going and keep investing that money, you will get there. It'll just take more time.
Yeah. The other interesting thing, which I think kind of makes sense, but they took a look at generations as well.
Okay.
And boomers and Gen X were the most pessimistic about reaching a millionaire status. Gen Z was by far most optimistic.
I believe that.
My guess is it's a mix of Gen Z kind of having fresh ambition, but also realizing they have 40 to 50 years to reach it.
Yep. Yeah, and I think a lot of young people might look at older people with some level of envy when they say, wow, I can't wait till I'm where you are. And I think the opposite is actually probably true. I think a lot of older people go, I wish I was where you were.
Yeah.
Because A, I'd be younger again, and B, I'd have so many years I could redo the mistakes that I've made.
I did stupid stuff when I was your age.
And I know I would do it better the second time. So if you're young and you don't make much money, take heart. You have so much ahead of you that if you just be disciplined now, it feels tough because it's many, many years away, but your future self will thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, income does matter here, obviously, but not as much as you might think. And it's the more important thing here is the discipline saver.
Yeah.
So again, we've talked about, but like a person that's making $100,000 but is saving 25% is going to become a millionaire faster than the person making $200,000 that's only saving 5%.
Right.
So
also kind of a good warning against lifestyle creep. If you're able to at 100 or 150 save 10 to 15%, make sure that you're still doing it. Don't all of a sudden hit 200 and realize, oh, I've made it. Now, let me save 5%.
Yeah.
Try to continue with that consistency.
Yeah, and I would encourage you to think of some goals. It's maybe early on, maybe not in perpetuity forever, but less focused on the numbers in your portfolio. Like by the end of the year, I'm going to have $100,000 in my portfolio. Rather, I would encourage you to think about, make your goal a savings rate goal. Like figure out what your savings rate is right now. Here's my income. Here's how much I save on an annual basis. If that number is, let's say it's 5%, make it your goal next year to increase that to maybe not 10%. I don't know. That might be difficult. Maybe not. But make it your goal to increase that.
Yeah.
And continue that goal year after year to eventually get to that 25% savings rate. You might not, like that might seem like a lot to you, and that might be difficult, but make it your goal to increase your savings rate over time so that as the years go on, you're actually just saving more and more and more. Hopefully your income is actually increasing, at least with inflation, maybe more. Maybe you change jobs and you get a good raise, or you get a promotion or things like that. When you're also increasing your savings rate, well, that number is really going to start to grow.
Yeah, and I think goals should be much more in your control. So the savings rate goal is in your control versus at the end of the year, my portfolio value will be this, because you could hit a 2008. You could be 25 years old, hit a 2008, and your portfolio is down 40%.
Right.
You lost everything that you potentially lost everything that you saved for the year, but it's still in the market that typically comes back.
Yeah, and listen to our episode on market timing.
Right.
Don't panic if that happens, and get all your money out of it. Let it ride.
Yeah.
It's going to be all right. Just we don't believe in market timing.
Or panic.
The downturns are gonna happen. So,
but it also makes it virtually impossible to legitimately plan on a year-to-year basis what your portfolio value is going to be.
Exactly. So that's not the number to focus on.
Yeah.
Instead, how's my savings rate?
Right.
So do you, out of curiosity, do you know what your savings rate is?
Not off the top of my head. I would have to think. I mean, you brought up a good point about what you're saving to your 401k and different areas, and so I don't think I've added it all up.
Okay.
Do you?
I do. It's changed a little bit this year because we bought a car, and that changed how much I could save on a monthly basis because I took on a car payment that I didn't have before. So I'll do it. I do it annually, so I'll do it in January again to double check. But it was at the beginning of last year. It was somewhere close to 30%. But
wow, that's impressive.
Yeah, but I was including some HSA stuff because I was maximizing my HSA.
Bringing it back up.
So that probably shouldn't count because I tend to use some of that in the year. So I'll have to revisit it.
Yeah, like I know numbers wise how much I'm saving to different places, but I've thought less about it in terms of percentage.
Yeah.
So I'll have to go back and take a look.
It's
good challenge.
It's a fun exercise to do.
Yeah.
It's eye opening, and it's either going to be encouraging or discouraging. You because I was actually surprised when I first did it. I was like, oh, I'm saving more than I thought I was. But you know, it could also go the other way, and you'd be like, oh, I'm not saving enough. So let's focus on that and try to increase it.
Yeah.
The difference between 5 and 15% savings is decades in terms of reaching that $1 million. Like literally, it'll add decades if you were to drop from 15 to 5%. So let's go the other way.
I think the other thing you just proved is you're more the engineer type, and that the engineers know every dollar of everything.
Uh-huh.
And I'm more like I see the bank account going up, and I know what the plan says, and the bank account's going up. I just think less about like all the specifics, and I know what the overall plan is.
Yeah.
So there are two types of people that can reach goals in two different types of ways.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah, like I don't think anybody should live the way that I live because I have like OCD about it, and there's pros and cons with that. Some cons might be you might consider me a miser at times because I'm like so focused on that savings rate. I don't want to decrease that or lose that. But when something comes up like a need, like we need a new car, I have to bite that bullet and just go, all right, I'm gonna have to take that hit on our savings rate because we just need this for our family.
Yeah.
You know, you're the guy that's just like, yeah, let's do it. We're in good shape, and I think that's probably a good way to live in a lot of ways. There's pros and cons to that too.
I mean, I'm the guy that is like, well, I know what we've been saving, and the new car just takes away a little bit of that. Like, if I save X amount to this account per month, I can still do that with this new car.
There you go. Yeah, that's great. So I think one of the other key insights is the less you make, the more important a high savings rate is.
Which is kind of like, I feel like that's harder though.
It is harder, but the $50,000 earner that's saving 25% will get to $1 million faster than the $200,000 earner that's only saving 5%, which is crazy. But it speaks to that first in that cold opening when we were talking there in the book when they highlight the difference. A lot of the white collar wealthy neighborhoods, they earn a lot of money and they spend a lot of money. Mm-hmm. And their lifestyle looks rich because they have the really nice car and the really nice house, but perhaps their savings rate is not that high as a result of that. Whereas somebody that's just really modest and they are really hyper-focused on a good savings rate, they're accumulating wealth more efficiently, potentially, than somebody that's earning a lot and spending a lot.
Definitely, yeah, I would say probably. I was going to say definitely, but I'll switch it to probably more efficiently, because the people with all the flashy things, they're probably just making a heck of a lot more.
Sure, yeah, and yeah, there's nothing wrong with making a lot of money and also spending. You're naturally probably going to spend more than somebody that's making significantly less money.
Call it 500. Maybe they're making 500,000 and saving 5%.
Yeah,
I wonder what that number would be, but it's probably going to be a lot better than even the 15% for 50,000.
Probably, yeah, probably. But I should have brought a financial calculator to do some spontaneous numbers because I don't know. But that is a lot of money to make.
Yeah.
A lot of people probably that's maybe not in the realm of possibility for the majority of people. But
right. But if you're thinking like McMansion neighborhoods, it's probably what you're.
Sure.
It's probably the type of person that you're seeing.
Yep. And there is a biblical principle here too. We've read this verse many times on the podcast, which is Proverbs 21:5. It says, "The plans of the diligent certainly lead to advantage, but everyone who is in a hurry certainly comes to poverty." So there is this slow, plodding accumulation phase that is really, really beneficial in so many ways beyond just your portfolio. I think that's a helpful like heart attitude to have, where you're just not like trying to get rich quick. You're just on this slow journey towards building. And that applies to a lot of aspects of your life.
Yeah.
Sanctification is the exact same way. It's not like you go from degenerate to the holiest person on earth overnight. Like sanctification is a pretty slow process too. It's just kind of a daily, like, I'm just getting a little bit better each day. I'm just kind of continuing to get closer to the Lord. So that applies to your financial life as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, yeah, please.
Well, I was just going to say, I do think the one thing to just keep in mind is we're running all these numbers to hit kind of that psychological $1 million, but don't focus so much on the $1 million that you also can't enjoy what God's blessed you with.
Yeah, for sure. And we've talked about that. There's the episode, I'm trying to remember what episode it was. I think it was the episode about prosperity itself. It was one of our early episodes when we talked about prosperity in 7 different categories, I think is what it was. Mm-hmm. And we think that part of living a prosperous life is enjoying the fruits of your labor, enjoying what God has blessed you with. That is an okay thing.
And on the flip side of that, don't get to $1,000,001 and decide, I can slack off now.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. I think all of life is about balance.
Yeah.
You want to balance your enjoyment in the now with preparing for the future, but you don't want to sacrifice and vice versa. You don't want to sacrifice your future for enjoyment now. You don't want to sacrifice enjoyment now for the future. Always. Mm-hmm. You might I think that's probably a better side to err on, is not living for today, but preparing for tomorrow. But I think there's a lot of balance that you can actually do both.
Yeah. Yep. I agree.
So some practical steps as we wrap things up. I think it's a good exercise, maybe annually. Like I mentioned, I try to do this every January. I try to revisit what your current savings rate is. Mm-hmm. So figure out what's my total household income, and we're going to go gross here. We're not going to go net. Think about your gross income. Think about all the different areas that you're saving to and calculate what that number is. And for you, it might be cash. I know we're talking about specifically investment savings right now, but you might still be building your emergency fund.
Right.
That can be part of it. That's not going to help you necessarily get to that $1 million because you're not going to be earning 8% on cash.
Especially with rates coming down.
Right. So take that with, like, eventually that number that you're saving to cash will switch to investments because you won't need to save to cash forever.
Yeah.
You'll build your emergency fund, and then you kind of want to keep it there. You don't want to over save in cash because then you're losing some money on inflation.
Yeah. So you've got some homework coming up.
I do. We're getting close.
Yeah.
But I am very excited about it. It's one of my favorite things to do.
Wow, you nerd.
I don't know. I like revisiting, looking at what it was last year, I like doing a net worth kind of annual review and see how did we do this year, and I'll do all of that sometime in January.
You're in the right position then.
Yeah, well, I just like it. It's fun. So yeah, calculate your savings rate. Find the path to 15% this year. 25% is great, but let's see what would it take to get to 15% this year. And go from there. If you're really low, if you're at 1%, 2% savings or no savings, that's going to be harder. So bare minimum, let's make it more than it was last year. But let's shoot for 15%. Shoot for 25% if you can. But
you've done a good job at challenging me this episode because now I'm thinking I don't even think about percentages enough. I think about dollar amounts, and I'm like sitting here distracting myself, thinking in my head, oh, what is my percentage?
The reason I like percentages is because that takes into account the income.
Yeah.
So
and lifestyle creep and yeah.
So it kind of helps give you a framework for if you have a good savings rate. Let's say 25% again, and let's use that $100,000. Well, that's $75,000 that you're living off of technically, all in. Yeah. So that's less money that you need then in retirement because you've gotten used to living off of $75,000, not $100,000. So the bigger your savings rate is, the less you need in retirement technically because that's money that you're not used to spending in the first place. You might want to travel more in retirement, and those are things that we always look at in plans. But the bigger your savings rate is, the less money you're living off of. So it's kind of a two-edged sword where not only are you saving more, but you're living on less.
And yep.
So it works both ways, that it benefits you in both ways.
All right, I'm going to ballpark. I think I'm at 15 right now.
Okay.
%.
Yeah. Great. That's find a path to 15% this year. Let's go. Maybe we should do an episode where this might be a bad idea, where we actually dive into our numbers more specifically and we provide that, but I don't know.
We'll see. TBD.
Yeah. We'll put a pin in that. Set a long-term goal of getting closer to 20 to 25%. And it might take a few years. You might need some salary increases to be able to afford that level of savings, but I think that's a good longer-term goal.
Yeah.
Going from 15 to 20 to 25%.
Now I'm just sitting here thinking about tuition increases as my kids get older.
I know. Yeah. It's tough in the years when you're having kids and they're expensive. They need things. My kids grow out of clothes like you wouldn't believe it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you would believe it, but when they're young, it's just like every month it's like, yeah, he grew out of his pants again.
This morning, I was helping my 3, almost 4-year-old pick out clothes, and he was like, "What size is it? That'll help me figure out if it's mine or Judah's." And I was like, "This one is 6'7", and he just looked at me and goes, "Dad, 6'7". Oh
man!
I was like, "Oh my gosh,
dude." That's we're not there. I'm actually. It's funny because I'm actually trying to get Theo to do the 6'7" thing. He doesn't want to. He marches to the beat of his own drum. He doesn't like being told what to do. So even though I'm encouraging him to do the thing that literally every kid is doing right now, he's like, "No, I'm not interested."
Oh, I've got JoJo doing it.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, dude. Maybe Elsie will do it then. I bet she would.
She's doing it with the hand motions and everything.
Wow, that's sweet. Automate everything. I would say set up just recurring. Obviously your 401k is probably doing that if you're contributing to a 401k. But don't
additional stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Don't just count on like, all right, at the end of the month, if I have some left over, I'll save that. No, let's save first. Let's automate that, and then you can live off the rest.
Yeah, I've got mine depending on the month, and it always excites me. The 18th of the month, I've got a fresh cash to invest. In my portfolio.
Let's go. Yeah, mine's like the 16th of the month, so I'm right there with you. I would say don't count on like bonuses. Like treat that as extra stuff.
Bonuses.
Did I what?
Oh yeah.
No.
Oh yeah.
Not a chance, dude. That's crazy. people that like aren't from here maybe don't have a sense of what we're talking about with this accent, but I don't know. It's a thing.
They all just heard it.
Yeah, I guess. So yeah, bonuses.
It's better.
Don't include that in your savings rate, I would say. Like, unless it's like a guarantee.
Right.
Like, you know that you're getting a $10,000 bonus, let's say. I don't think you have to save all of that. I think you should give some of that. I think you should. I mean, you're
going to get taxed on some of it.
Yeah, you're going to get taxed on some of it. Yeah, it's taxed as income.
Yeah.
I think it's okay to enjoy some of that too. Take your family out to dinner when you get that, but save a good amount of that too. I think that's it. It just only increases these projections when you're able to be disciplined with those windfalls too.
Yeah.
Celebrate the wins. Like I said, maybe do an annual net worth review and look at what your net worth was in January of 25 and then look at what it was in January of 26. And hopefully that number is bigger and celebrate that. Look at the progress you've made. Even if you didn't hit your savings goals or your savings rate goals, hopefully your number is still increased and you're in a better spot this year than you were last year. And you're not like last week when we talked about Michael Scott, how he was explaining why he wanted to pay for the kids' colleges. And he said, I was hoping to be a millionaire by the time I was 30, and I wasn't even close. By the time I was 40, I had even less money than I had when I was 30. Don't do that.
Yeah, don't be Michael.
Don't be Michael. Go back and listen to that episode if you haven't. There's some big mistakes you can make in the Michael Scott realm. Let's not do that. And let compounding do its work.
Yeah. Yeah. There are interesting studies out there that show differences between institutional investors and retail investors and the difference in the returns that are made. And a lot of times it's, I would say probably the biggest factor is the emotional factor of getting out. So again, go back to that market timing episode and don't freak out when the markets go down. Let compounding do its thing.
Yep. Because over time, you will see that it has a miraculous effect on your portfolio.
Yeah.
Rather than just keeping it in a savings account or something like that.
Right.
And that's it. That's pretty much all we had for today. Do you have any other final thoughts before we wrap things up?
I don't think so. I think we hit on everything.
All right. Well, thank you for listening. Reach out to us if you want to talk about these things more in depth with your own financial life. You can send us an email if you want at plantoprosper@stonecropadvisors.com. We can go on our website, stonecropadvisors.com, click the Get Started button, and we can talk about what your financial life looks like, how we can get you to hit your goals, whatever those might be. It might not be $1 million. You might want more or less than that, or depending on what you're doing. And
it's different for everyone.
We'd be happy to put together a plan for you and your goals.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening. Like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell. God bless.
God bless.
Investment advisory services offered through Stonecrop Wealth Advisors, LLC, a registered investment advisor with the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission. This material is intended for informational purposes only.